Hey, what's up guys? Guardian here, coming to you guys with a deck profile today, going over a new deck for the channel, and it's a deck that I'm actually really excited to bring you guys. This is Halmveld. So, you're probably wondering, who the hell is Halmveld? Well, Halmveld is the promo grade 3 that came out over a year ago in Japan, and we only got it in English about a few months ago. I think it was when Set 2 came out in Divines. Um, so what was that, like four-ish months ago or something like that, earlier this year? And yeah, he got completely overlooked because he just arrived really, really late. But he's a really cool Vanguard though, because he's essentially the order focused deck for Keter, which is really interesting. So we get to use like a lot of different order packages, and of course, we get to use everyone's favorite cards in Keter Sanctuary, the Keter pile. Whoa, I know, right? Me using the Ketapal, that's dangerous, isn't it? Because considering I made a video saying that I just got bored of it. Well, you know what? If there's a deck that I'm going to use it in, it's going to be this one because it cares about orders. So there we go. But yeah, this deck's been really, really fun. I've been loving this like recent trip recently with like revisiting like kind of forgotten vanguards and just trying to make them better. Which is kind of rough, with like a lot of the newer decks that are coming out. It's definitely hard to make these decks shine, but this deck has honestly impressed me recently because the first time I tried this, I felt like it was kind of garbage, but I revisited the deck and tried to build it a little bit differently, and I feel like now it's actually a little bit more sustainable. Like, I did a tournament with this last night, and we were able to take some wins here and there. But yeah, it's definitely a really interesting deck, and I do hope they kind of revisit this deck in the future to maybe give it like one or two support pieces to help it out. But alas, I don't know. I know that Claudine, the Strike one, that recently got the Garlic grade 1 from set 5, which is just insane for that deck. But to say if it's directly for that deck, I don't know. It just works in the deck, you know what I mean? So whether or not they give something for this deck in the future, we'll have to see. But anyway, enough of me yapping. Let's go into the deck. So for the ride line, we're just sticking to the generic Alden ride line. It's funny because we call this the Alden ride line, but we don't really see Alden play this. But it's the typical units of Tranquilla and Sodios. These guys got retrains recently with the newer Alden, but these are the original ones, which are just really generic and easy for any Keter deck to use. So we are playing them just to get some extra pluses and not use resources, basically, because we need to hold on to a Counterblast for Halmveld for his skill, which we'll go over now in the main deck, since we do play some Persona Ride copies, obviously. So, Halmveld, what does he do? So he has a continuous skill, which is, if you've used a normal order that turn, your entire front row rear guards get 5,000 power, and then your back row rear guards get boost, which is kind of cool because it makes it so that if you don't have the necessary grade 1s at the time, you can just utilize your grade 2s as boosters, which comes really in handy for like boosting your Vanguard with, say, like a grade 2 for a 10k boost, which is really nice. So yeah. And then his main skill is, when he attacks, you can Counterblast 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You can either call a unit to your rearguard, or you can add an order to your hand. And then if you added an order to your hand, you get to restand all of the units in one of your columns, right? Well, one of your rearguard columns, I should say. So yeah, you can only do 4 attacks in this deck, which does kind of suck, but that is essentially the way this deck multi-attacks. You're either going to call a unit to attack with, or you're going to just restand the column. You do preferably want to be restanding the column, because that's going to where you're going to get most of your aggressiveness from. But calling a unit, at least you're going to get 5k from the Halmveld, so it's going to be at minimum like to be able to hit over a Vanguard, 13k threshold. But sometimes you may have to run the risk of holding up a booster potentially, and if not, the most secure way really to do it, if you are going to call a unit, is to do it on a Persona Ride turn, right? And then hopefully through your drive checks, you might be able to give it some extra power through the triggers. So that's that. So that is essentially what Halmveld does, and we're going to be utilizing orders and basically cards that work with orders to help support him, basically. So that is what he does. And can I just say, can we give this guy some credit? I love his artwork, and I also think it's really cool how, even though the Alden ride line is something that's like generically good for the deck, the theme of these cards just go with Halmveld's artwork. And of course, I have to just steal the, start deck slash Reziel, starter as well, because that just goes with it as well, with the wings and the white and the blues. So yeah, very thematic ride line. Very, very cool. All right, so to go into the grade 2s, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the units that I'm playing first, and then I'll go into the orders after that, okay? So to start with, we are playing 4 copies of Tearfall. Of course, we have to play this because it's pretty much one of the better cards in the deck. We are playing the Keter pile. We cannot play these units. We cannot get away without playing these units in this deck because it just works. So yeah. But the nice thing with this is that if there's nothing to call with the Tearfall, you can at least add an order to your hand, which, yes, does technically make it so that you have less orders in the deck to get the restand effect with this. But we always kind of want to make sure that we have an order in rotation in some way. Because we want to make sure that we're getting that power gain, as well as the boost can somewhat help with making some aggressive columns as well. But yeah, Tearfall is just a really good attacker, pretty much the main powerhouse of the deck to give this deck some pressure. And then next to her, we are playing the 2 copies of Saphira. I think I called a Sapphire in one video. Yeah, Saphira. So this card is really, really good in this deck. I cannot express how good this is in this deck. So when it's placed, you get to look at the top card of your deck. Well, play from hand, I should say. So you get to look at the top card of your deck and either discard it or keep it on top, right? So you get a little sneak peek of what's coming up. And then you can do one of 2 things. You can either counterblast to resurrect a grade 2 unit from your drop zone to the rear, which is really good because if your opponent is attacking into your Tearfalls now, you have a way to recycle them and bring them back. Very solid. And then the other option is you can add an order from your drop zone back to your hand, which is also good because we need to utilize orders in the deck, obviously. So if you don't have a follow-up order, you can get them back with this. So you don't have to feel bad about, discarding them or just, binning one. You can recycle them with this and you're good to go. And yeah, sometimes what I'll do is that I'll just put this behind my Vanguard, just because it's a solid 10k booster to make the Vanguard hit better numbers as well. Your grade 2s can be very useful boosters at times for this deck. So another grade 2, which is also quite good for that reason, is 2 copies of Biscotti. We do need to make sure we are keeping some form of card advantage in this deck. So discarding for the ride line, this comes in handy for, and then also helping us refill board as well can be pretty good. And then also naturally you do have the ability to guard with this as well to, hold onto some cards in hand without necessarily negging too much basically with your card advantage. So yeah, Biscotti is always nice, and I'm only doing 2 of this so far because I actually have another card in the deck, which you'll see soon, which kind of acts like this, which you'll probably know what that is, saying that, basically. So, the last grade 2 unit that I'm playing is 2 copies of Turnar, because we need some sort of counter charge in this deck, and Turnar's not too bad, because we do have plenty of ways to counterblast in this deck, so getting 3 face down is not too difficult for this deck, but if the opponent does decide to CB deny us, this is basically our out to that. So having one of these on hand to get that counterblast so that we can actually use Halmveld's skill is pretty crucial. So we do need to play some ratio of these, and I think 2 is like just enough, just in terms of like the space allocation in the deck. So yeah. So that's it for the units for the grade 2s. So I'll actually keep these up here just so you have them for reference. And then we'll go over the orders now. So for the orders that I'm playing that are grade 2s, we are playing 2 copies of Wisdom of Beginning. Naturally, we're going to be playing this in the deck. 2 copies of the Uplifting Hymn. So we are playing the Uplifting Hymn package with Kadungan. That's something to take note of. And then we're also playing 2 copies of A Warriors of Rest. And then the final grade 2 order that I'm playing is the 1 copy of Union the Sky. So yeah, I got this recently from the trial deck that we opened up recently, so getting this from that, I'm not going to lie, it kind of inspired me to look into the deck again, to rebuild it. So yeah, so to go over these and the ratios, I decided to go for 2 Wisdom of Beginning because I actually have Obligator Dragon in this deck, which is basically the discard grade 1 to bin an order from your deck to the drop zone, and then you can use that order through the drop zone, basically. So by having some of these in the deck, it pretty much means that we have, like, you know, the full playset of this, basically, without having to, like, cram more orders into the deck, basically. So that's that. And then we have Uplifting Him, which I've utilized in Ezel quite a bit over the years. But in this deck, I went for 2 because there were a couple of situations where I damage checked the one of, and it just sucks. So I'm just playing 2 of this just to make sure I always have access to it. And then having that additional copy is not too bad because you could actually just search this out with Kadungan and then use that as like a discard fodder for your ride line, knowing that you can just get it back later if need be. So yeah. But giving 2 your regards 5k power is really, really nice because it just helps you fix your magic number columns. And then, you know, in line with Kadungan, Kadungan gets absolutely huge. Like, this guy gets 5k when you've used an order. So if you give him another 5k with this, he's an 18k beater. And then, yeah, like, this guy is honestly one of the best beaters in the deck, honestly, which is kind of funny because he is just a grade 1. Then we have the Warrior's Rest. This order is quite good because you can give 2 of your units the ability of when it gets boosted, it gets 10k. And then if you have 5 or more units on your field, including the Vanguard, you get a draw card. So this one replaces itself. But one thing I might have noticed with these orders, we have a unit. I keep saying unit for some reason. We have an order that counterblasts, an order that soul blasts, and an order that energy blasts. So yeah, this is what I like of this deck, is that we have pretty much the whole range of like different resource managements that we can utilize an order for. And because we have cards like the Saphira in the deck, we can actually use that to recycle these and then use them again later if we need them, sort of thing. So you can kind of pick and choose what you need in this deck. And then because we also have the Obligator Dragon, we can just ditch a card to get access to like the Wisdom or the Warrior's Rest, and the Kadungans can help get to this anyway, so that's fine. And then I wanted to put a Blitz order in this deck because with us having a good amount of room used for the orders, we do need to make sure that we've got some shields. So having the Union in the Sky is pretty nice because it basically acts as a 3rd copy of Biscotti, in that you can discard this early game to maybe get an extra draw to help dig for pieces, basically. So yeah, but besides from that, it's a 15k Blitz order that draws you a card for a CB or an Energy Blast 3, and then you can get rid of a copy of your Vanguard from your soul or your drop zone. From your soul, and your soul or your drop, and remove it from the game, basically, to get an extra 10k shield. So it becomes a 25k shield instead of 15, which is pretty good. So yeah, anyway, that's it for the orders. So yeah, that's it for all the grade 2s in the deck. So we'll move on over to the grade 1s. Alright, so for grade 1s, of course we have to play the best boy in Keter Sanctuary, which is Saragon. Yeah, really, really good card. Honestly, the Keter Pile is what makes this deck kind of playable, because you get to access, you know, Persona Ride through this, just shield value. Saragon just gets you to places, and then also making your columns better by being a 13k booster. Really good. But also what I like in this deck, which is kind of underrated, is that because this is an order-focused deck, I don't have to care about how many more regards I have than my opponent. I don't care, because I can just use this effect as long as I've used an order that turn, which I'm pretty much going to. So yeah, Saragon, really, really cool card. And then we have 4 copies of Kadungan. So of course, this is the unit where you can counterblast to search for a copy of the Uplifting Him, get it from your drop or your deck to your hand, so you can recycle the ones that you discard. And yeah, he gets 5k power if you've used an order, so basically he's a 13k base, and then if you get 5k from, say, like Uplifting Him, he's 18, and then the Vanguard skill of your Halmveld, that'll make him 23. So yeah, Kadungan, no joke, is like one of the best beat sticks in this deck. So even though we play a low grade 2 count, the grade 1s here actually help, you know, supplement the aggressive side of the deck as well. So that's pretty cool. And then the final grade 1 that isn't a PG is 2 Obligator Dragon, basically just to help us get access to the orders that we want, being the Wisdom of Beginning or the a Warrior's Rest, whichever one we need. So with that, we have the final grade 1s of the deck, being the 3 regular PG and the 1 Elementaria, which is kind of funny because we can actually add Elementaria to our hand if we see it from Halmveld's top 5 check, which is pretty good. So yeah, this is an addable order that we can get, and a PG, so it can help save us, so that's pretty cool. So that's it for the grade 1s. So moving on, we have the grade 0s. So for the triggers, we are playing the blue OT for an extra crit. Getting something back from the drop zone to help us refill hand is pretty good. Yeah, I just like blue OT. It's just really easy to use, and just extra crit pressure is always nice in a deck like this to help take games. And then obviously to go alongside that, we are playing 8 more crit with the vanillas here. I decided not to put the effect trigger in just because I felt like it was unnecessary. And also, generically, with the 5k power of these as well, these actually come up sometimes to make some good columns. So, yeah, I care more about the 5k base than the actual skill crits. So, yeah, it is what it is. Then the final few triggers here, we have 3 draws, because we just need to see, cards. This deck doesn't plus a ton in this deck, but the draws help us get to things like our Persona rides and just other pieces, so sticking with those. And then, of course, we got the 4 heal triggers to wrap the deck up. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it for the deck. Overall, though, I have had a really fun time with this. It's nice to revisit these, underlooked decks. Well, these Vanguards, basically, since, Halmveld came out kind of a bit too late for people to give too much credit to him and too much attention. But yeah, he's kind of cool though. It's another way of playing Keter Sanctuary with an order package and utilizing all of the different units that work with orders like Tearfall, Saragon, but in a dedicated deck that's meant to play orders and synergizes with them. So I just think that's really cool. But yeah, tell me guys what you think about the deck. Any suggestions would be helpful, of course. I don't see many Halmveld decks out there, so any suggestions are welcome. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a lovely holiday as well. So I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Guardian, signing out.